Matt Ringrose, we are live, man. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. It's not the most obvious guest to have on a podcast that is titled Meet.
It's not the most obvious podcast to be a guest on.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
I want to ask you up front. I reached out to you a couple of months back to come and run some meditation for what I thought was just going to be my sales team, but it brought it into a group of others who have initially done it. What were your thoughts when you had a meat company calling about meditation? Just give us some insights into what you were thinking.
That's a great question because judgmental, I'm afraid. I was like, really? That's interesting. You know, what? Are we going to turn them all vegan? First question.
Are you a vegan?
No, I'm not, and it's certainly not compulsory.
Right now.
It's certainly not compulsory to be vegetarian to meditate. Some people just find they do.
Yeah.
But no, I just thought two things. I thought this is going to be interesting, particularly as my assistant on the day was vegan.
And that's Caroline.
That's Caroline.
Yep.
And so we were talking. I suppose I was just curious, and I was curious about the kind of people that might work here. And then I came in here and they were delightful. I'm not just saying that. Like, I'll promise you, I'm not just saying that. They were delightful, and it ended up being, I'm sure I don't jump to the end of the story, but it ended up being one of the sweetest and most engaged kind of students, collection of students we've had in our corporate offering.
Yeah, it's good to hear, and I've got to tell you that I've dabbled in meditation for probably 15 or 20 years. My wife had done a course with you, and we're going to talk a bunch about what Vedic or TM meditation is in a minute. But I'd never really felt any true results. I kind of knew intuitively it was doing me good. It was always guided. I'd listen to Deepak Chopra or something like that, and it felt good, but I never felt like I was really getting any great improvements. And then I had this team of rogues that I manage and, are part of this great business of ours. And they were unhealthily skeptical, but they were also very willing participants because we'd structured it, on your advice that we weren't just funding it all. They were funding $100 of a... Oh, that's interesting. This is what happens. This is what happens when you do a podcast. It's all good, Louis.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun.
A bit of fun. Don't get stressed. It's this is part of working at Bits Me. We're probably on fire downstairs, so we'll just keep talking through it.
Barbecue.
Emergency. Evacuate now.
It sounds pretty adamant, doesn't it?
It's all right, man. It's gone off a couple of times recently. It's the cleaners are doing something that the hot water's setting a fire alarm off, or it's a scam by the fire department because it costs us $500 per fire engine that comes out.
Is one going to come now?
Possibly. We'll continue. Like I love the fact that they're trying to stress us out during a podcast on meditation. Anyway, back to where I was. We've got a team of guys that are out there, and included our Melbourne team also, that are front of line dealing with very highly strung and some of them very famous chefs that are incredibly demanding. My team are pretty highly strung and demanding, and then it filtered down to our customer service team that are taking calls from those highly strung and demanding people all day, every day, and then our purchasing department that are buying produce from some of the biggest producers in the country. And I think they all came into it thinking, I probably need to do something. I don't really know what it was, and I don't really know what to expect. But when did we finish, Matt? This time last week, or less than? It was Friday last week.
It's just a few days ago. Yeah.
Less than a week ago. I've got one guy in my team, Michael Rakecki, that I will absolutely talk about loudly because he's been in the business for 15 years. He's a butcher by trade. He's naturally cynical by nature, and he's had a transformation. Like, people are saying, customer service is saying, I don't know what's happened, but he's gone from being an improved Michael Rekecki from before to a guy that's just peaceful and calm. So it's a really interesting, profound effect that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting benefits, but I wasn't expecting profound benefits in, what's less than a week and a half, 4 practices with you and obviously some insight into it. And then they've all embraced it, not just once a day, but most of them are doing it at twice a day.
Fantastic.
It is really fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's go back to basics, because I think a lot of our listeners are in the industry and won't necessarily, and that's again being prejudicial, but tell us what meditation is and what it isn't.
Yeah. So what meditation is a way of relaxing the body and relaxing the mind. So I'll talk to you about Vedic meditation, because there are lots of different types and they kind of do different things. So we can be specific to the technique I teach.
Can I ask you, and I do it, have they all got benefits, or are some pretty benign?
Well, look, they have different. I use an analogy. Let's compare, for example, Vedic meditation to an app, a meditation app. That'd be a good place because they have different effects realistically.
Yeah. So
let's say that an app is a bit like going swimming when you get to a nice resort and you go swimming out, and you've heard there's some nice coloured fish in the little bay. So you get your snorkel, you get your face mask, and you pop yourself out there and you have a little snorkel around, and sure enough, they're right. There's a nice little green fish there, and there's a blue fish and a yellow fish. And you come out and you're like, oh, it's pretty nice in there. There's these fish. It's beautiful. Next day you go, I'm going to go in and have a look again. So you go in again. It's the green fish. It's the blue fish, yellow fish. You start kind of going, are there any others? No, it seems to be just those 3. Next day you go in, you look, it's just those 3, and you're out again within a couple of minutes. And the next day you might not go back in.
Because it's the same.
It's a bit shallow. Meanwhile, down the beach, there's a boat going out, and people have got scuba diving equipment on, and they're going out and they're coming back in the evening. They've got all sorts of stories about what they've discovered. They've seemed to have had a much more deep experience and found out much more interesting things. Some of them are even making a lifestyle out of it. It seems to be quite transformative to them. So that's the kind of difference. Obviously the snorkeling, the more shallow experience being an app, it gives you they're great because they give you a meditative experience very quickly, often for free. You just plug in your headphones, away you go, and within, let's say, 5 minutes, you're having some sort of experience of meditation. But in the longer term, a lot of people do tend to come and seek out people like myself who have the scuba diving equipment.
Which is me.
Which is you.
Classic example.
Yeah, there you go.
Decades of doing it, but no real benefit.
That's right. So that you can tell there's something there, but you get a sense there's a lot more if you had a more powerful technique and maybe a teacher to guide you. So that's where people like me come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vedic
is a very good technique. Very good. Look, I'm biased, but if I find a better technique, I'll teach it.
Yeah.
But to this point, the best technique I found is Vedic because it is the easiest, as you found. You can get it pretty much day 1, day 2.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the most effective. So it has, if you to believe the studies, it has the biggest effect on mental and physical health benefits. And also it feels really good to do it. So people get a bit hooked on it, and that's why it has the highest keep-up rate. The most people continue doing this type of meditation.
Yeah, get it. So that's meditation. What is not meditation? Things like you hear people saying, I'm a surfer, I'm going surfing, that's my meditation. Is that meditation?
Well, look, I get it. And in a sense, it is. It's a shallowy kind of meditation. It gets you, what they mean by that is it stops you thinking and connects you to something else. And that is essentially meditation. But it's not a powerful practice that can be compared realistically with, for example, Vedic meditation, because what surfing doesn't do is put you into a hypometabolic state, which is a very, very deep state of rest, in which the body can start to heal itself and release stress that's been accumulated over your life. That's not going to happen when you go surfing. You're going to be using the body.
Yeah.
When you do Vedic meditation, you go into a very, very deep state of rest, much deeper than sleep, in which you start to unwind, the body unwinds and start to release and heal from these old stresses. And that's when you start to feel better. So you see, if somebody says they're surfing to their meditation, I'll never disagree with them because I understand what they mean. But it won't have the same therapeutic effects that a powerful meditation technique will have.
Yeah, I get it. What about the situation? And I think everyone that's tried meditation, particularly on their own, has said this is either I'm not good at it or I can't do it because, again, like me, you've got a monkey mind. Like my mind never stops.
Yeah.
Like what's your answer to that for people that are contemplating doing meditation, particularly being taught by a professional like yourself?
Yeah.
And they've got a really busy mind, so they think they can't do it. Or they do try it and they've still got a busy mind, so they don't think they're getting any benefit from it.
Yeah. I'd say at least 50% of people who come to me say something along the lines of, look, I know everyone can do this, but I'll be your biggest challenge because my mind is, I've got the monkey mind. I can't stop thinking I'm 100 miles an hour. Good luck. And then, of course, every time they're in the chair, they're there for 2 minutes and they're gone.
They fall asleep.
They kind of fall asleep, stroke, meditate or transcend. So why do they think this? It's understandable because for a long time, the most well-publicized and most promoted types of meditation involved a level of concentration. These are the type of meditations sometimes referred to as Buddhist or mindful practices. And they involve concentration and trying to still the mind. And frankly, they're really difficult. So this is a little bit controversial, but I imagine this is the perfect place to say this. Like,
we love controversy.
Yeah. So a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, there was a big push from kind of the establishment of the mindfulness technique. And you'd find that doctors and even government kind of authorities were starting to promote mindfulness, which is basically a Buddhist technique involving concentration on the breath and other things.
Yeah.
And that's great, because it got it out there. But a few years ago, there starts to be a conversation.
This is, it's never happened to us before, but we're just going to keep rolling with it. We're rolling, man. We just keep punching through these things, man.
So, a few years ago, there started to be observation and conversations that, hang on a minute, not that many people are actually doing this mindfulness or reporting that much success from it. Basically, what they worked out is, it's difficult. Could we say they backed the wrong horse? We could maybe say that. And what you're starting to see now, slowly, but it's growing, is a move away from the concentrative style to a transcendent style. And transcendent style is not only more effective, it's a hell of a lot easier. So as you know, when you learn Vedic, you don't have to sit there and concentrate, control the mind, make it do anything unnatural. All you do is sit there and think this funny little sound you've been given. And that does the work for you. And you'll find the mind slipping into these deeper states. Then the mind will start drifting around thinking, but you don't have to stop that. And then you'll come back to the mantra. So you'll find the mind starts to become much more still and quiet, but without you trying for a second to make that happen.
Yeah.
In fact, if you do try and make it happen, it's less likely to happen. So yes, I understand why people would say, I'm never going to be able to do this. They may even have had a go at one of those techniques which requires you to control the mind and found it necessarily, obviously, very difficult. It's like saying, stop your heart beating.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen, or it's going to be a great struggle.
Yeah, when this mind's been racing for 20, 30, 50 years.
Yeah. So in our tradition, what we use are mantras, which have a very calming, soothing effect on the mind. And when we think them with our eyes closed, silently in the mind, cause the mind to settle down. And that just happens naturally. And it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yep. And it doesn't matter if you're still having external thoughts?
So you will have.
Yeah.
So you'll have some thoughts for a while, and then you'll remember to come back to the mantra, and then sometimes you'll slip off the mantra and kind of being a nothingy kind of state. And then you might start thinking again. But when you're taught how to do this properly, as you guys were on the course, the whole process becomes enjoyable. Whether you're thinking or not thinking or thinking the mantra, the whole thing feels peaceful because it's all about the way you approach it. So the thoughts stop being wrong. They're just kind of there, here and there, but they're not a problem. Yeah.
What did you call it? There was a phrase, not owning. What was the word that you used? Don't fight them. Don't
resist them.
Don't resist them. Accept them. Anyway, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts on, and I can only imagine this is the case. Like I spent a lot of time in yoga, doing a lot of yoga for many, many years, and I saw the boom of the yoga industry, and with that came what was originally a really small niche and very educated, well-trained, experienced teachers into something where people could go and spend a couple of days at best and become teachers, and they were held responsible for holding yoga practices across the Western world. Are you finding that with meditation as it starts to explode that you're getting teachers like, and maybe it's worthwhile mentioning what your training was, Matt. But are you finding now that people are going and getting a very elementary education and putting themselves out there as meditation teachers, and does that concern you?
Yes, that is happening and will happen more. Yeah. Because this is what always happens. If you like, it's a diluting of the knowledge as people see it as a more of a commercial opportunity or just haven't got the time to spend on training properly.
Yep. So give me your training.
My training. So to be trained to the highest level, and there's a bit of a gold standard of Vedic meditation training, it involves, you have to meditate. When I did it, I think it was 3 years, twice daily meditation. It may be 2 years now.
Yeah.
Which is
to
easy.
Even get a ticket to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then during that, you can already start to do some of the knowledge components under the training. But I kind of started at that point, do the knowledge and extra techniques and things. And then when you get to that stage, you have to have a series of interviews, making sure you're, I suppose, in the right condition and can tolerate or handle the final and most important stage, which is a period of isolation, 3 months, where you have to meditate up to 14 hours a day.
And that's non-negotiable. You got to do.
That's non-negotiable. You do, it's an advanced practice involving meditation, yoga, asana, and breathing technique, which you do for 14 hours a day at the peak. You do at least a month of that, 14 hours a day, but you build up to it and then come back down at the end. And this has the effect of releasing a lot of stress out of your system. So the idea is that by the time you finish teacher training, you're less likely to have stress to be taking out on potential students and more able to just help them rather than having your own agenda or your own issues you're working through.
That's a really good point, because that's one thing that I have seen, and again, back to the yoga analogy, is that so many teachers feel like they're just self-healing, like they're there for their benefit, not the benefit of their students. And perhaps that's exactly what you're saying. They haven't been through a rigorous enough process to be in a place to truly be able to impart wisdom and peace to people.
Right. But I'd always be cautious about, being in any way negative about the proliferation of meditation teachers, because even if they're not all to the highest standard, I think that generally what happens is the best teachers are supported, so the cream rises to the top, and more people have access to learning a meditation practice. So I think we'll take that.
And there's probably no harm, unlike physical teaching, whether it's yoga or any sort of personal training. There's probably, I would imagine, very little, if any, downside of being taught badly or practicing badly, if there's such a thing.
It's interesting that you should say that. You can be being taught badly. No, nothing much will happen, I suppose, in the sense that the technique isn't communicated very well, and you either don't master it because the teaching isn't clear enough, or you don't do it because it wasn't inspiring enough. I suppose one area which is important to talk about is the area where you communicate the technique well, but you haven't got the experience or the interest in supporting the meditator after they've learned. Because as you go through a meditation journey, sometimes through the growth that it brings, there can be growing pains. And it's important to have somebody on hand, your teacher, who can help you negotiate and navigate your way through those, which is why you notice in our tradition and in our business, but also in any time I teach any student, I always offer them lifetime support in their meditation.
That's pretty amazing.
Because they can always check in.
So they can come to your studio at any time and practice.
That's correct. So we've got a studio.
Free of charge.
Free of charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got, once you learn with Bondo Meditation or the Business Mind, which are our businesses, you get free lifetime support from myself, one-on-one, and that could be on text or email or phone. But you also get free lifetime membership to the centre in Bondi, where you can drop in and do group meditations on a daily basis. There's also lots of other things like social things, knowledge sessions, community stuff, movie nights. You can imagine.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's all free for members, and it's nice.
It's a pretty good investment when you think about it.
Yeah. It is.
When you consider how much the average person that buys a cup of coffee a day spends in a year versus what you would spend, it's a fraction of the price. What about that concept though? And your school in the heart of Hipsterville, which I live to, so I say that with all due respect, that some people view meditation as a privileged, white, trendy, hipster kind of movement as opposed of being available. And I think about it because I really do want to roll this out across our whole business. And as you know, and we'll discover more, we have a bunch of people that are blue-collared, working in a cold box, typically overnight. Yeah. Is it accessible? Is it teachable to everybody? And would you take a different approach to what you did with the professional staff?
Okay. So yes, look, this technique can be taught to anyone. Anyone can learn it. I teach it to 5-year-olds through to 105-year-olds from all ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds. With the course that we teach in Bondi, it has a price tag attached to it. And that price tag is relevant for the context. The context being we're in Bondi. Yeah. We've got Bondi rent, Bondi shopping prices. Yeah. So we charge a price that seems reasonable and affordable to most people. We also make it absolutely flexible in terms of a payment plan, and they can pay for over as long as they want to meet any budget. Yeah. So we do that. And we also help people with scholarships who can't afford it. But these aren't people who are maybe considering weighing up the idea of a trip up to Byron versus a meditation. Yeah, got it.
They're truly struggling.
Yeah. No, these are guys like, for example, I work with guys coming out of prison. Or about to.
We've got a couple of them here.
Yeah. And when they first come out, often they're really on their asses. Yeah, basically.
Of course. Emotionally in particular, I would imagine. Yeah.
And also financially.
Yeah, of course.
We can. So we do obviously with those guys that when there's a sincere will to learn, we'll teach those for free, and also there's some other projects and things. So the answer is that the technique itself is anyone can learn it. It's not for a particular social class or particular gender or ethnicity.
Yeah, it's such a simple religious connotation whatsoever.
No religious connotations. You don't need to believe anything for it to work. Yeah. It's a relaxation technique. Vedic meditation has a reputation of being one of the more expensive techniques. And that's partly because you, as well as getting the course, you also get lifetime support. Yeah. So it's for people. But if I taught in a place that was like when it was taught in India, for example, particularly in the past, people would bring a goat or they'd bring something they made and there'd be an exchange. The main thing is that there's an appropriate energy exchange where somebody gives something they value in exchange for the knowledge. So if I'm giving the knowledge, I need something from them that they value. So I've taught before for a yoga class. I've taught for a crystal somebody gave me. Somebody did my numerology chart. We'll do various things.
Never been paid in meat, have you?
Not this far. I'm hoping that won't be the case this time. I just haven't got that much of an appetite.
I do want to talk a bit more about the science and the benefits. And I thought perhaps, because one of the big challenges that our industry has, and when I say our industry, I mean particularly the hospitality industry, is that depression and suicide amongst chefs is statistically off the charts. And it's really sad. Anthony Bourdain, who's one of Anthony Paharich, our CEO's dearest friends, and wrote the foreword to his book, and he's probably the most high profile of chefs that took his life tragically last year, but there are many every year. And I'm just wondering, from a depression and the extreme form of depression being suicide, is there scientific benefits for meditation and helping those people, one, get off their medication, and
Yeah.
2, to lead a life that isn't riddled with depression and thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, absolutely. So meditation can play a significant role in helping somebody with depression. It may not be the only thing that you use. What I would generally recommend is exercise, meditation, and where required, also medication from a doctor. So this meditation, there's plenty of studies, and a good place to go if you want some extra resources on this is tmtm.org.
tmt.org.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's TM.
And then TMT.
Nah.
Okay,
So it's
you
my
go.
fault. It's tm.org. So TM stands for Transcendental Meditation.
Meditation.org. So tm.org.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TM.org has lots of resources and studies and research papers. And it shows the effects of TM, it's in the name, it's the same technique, which is Vedic meditation. And it shows the benefits in treating depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. And there are some studies there which show that the amount of serotonin, which we know is the
Happy drug.
in the brain, increases in a meditator's urine within a certain, can't remember what time period. So yes, it helps with anxiety and depression because it improves or increases the levels of serotonin and dopamine, and it reduces the levels of cortisol and adrenaline. So you have less of a fight or flight feeling in the body and more of a bliss feeling. So these are some of the ways in which meditation can be very effective.
Yep.
in helping.
And is it the same? Like, let's take another big one for society in general, but for many of our workforce, that obesity and being overweight, and with that inflammation and pain, has meditation been shown to be a really good way? Because I think one of the challenges with people trying to lose weight is that it's either typically they're told eat less, move more, whereas is there some benefit in meditation in changing what's happening above the shoulders?
Yeah, because the key thing in making any positive change is to reach a level where we feel we have hope, where we feel it's actually referred to in the textbooks as courage, when you reach this level of conscious appreciation, where you're not stuck down in apathy, you're not stuck down in fear, anger, these lower emotions. What meditation does is it helps you get up above courage into acceptance. And when you're in acceptance, then you can start to move forward and start to make positive changes in your life. And meditation is very good at helping us move into acceptance.
Acceptance of self, acceptance of your life circumstances.
Yeah, it sounds like a funny thing because you might think, well, that's just going to make you more passive and less likely to do anything. But actually, no, it's the springboard from which we can actually move into action. It's why, for example, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous have that, when everyone goes there, they say, hi, I'm Matt and I'm an addict.
Yeah.
That's acceptance.
Yeah, okay.
And you're also accepting in those programs that you are, you're not as powerful as the addiction itself, and that overcomes you unless you connect to your higher power. So all these levels of acceptance allow you to get into a place where you feel more empowered to actually do something about it. So we find that people who meditate are more able to move into more positive actions. And also, because you're starting to feel, this meditation in particular has the effect of making you feel happy for no reason. There's a sense of fulfillment that comes just from meditating. So that means you're going to be less likely to be looking to things to make you feel more comfortable or happy.
Food, alcohol, drugs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Facebook, shopping, gambling, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
If you've filled the gap, and that's really what this meditation does, is it starts to fill the gap and allow you to feel a sense of ease and fulfillment without needing anything in particular, then you find you're less likely to go out looking to fill the gap. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about addiction, but you kind of just answered in that. Tell me, Matt, there seems to be a lot of narrative and dialogue at the moment around psychedelics in particular. And, we had Pete Evans on the show earlier this year, and he talked about it, the link between the depth and benefit of meditation and people I suppose, turbocharging that by microdosing, using psychedelics, particularly psilocybin.
Yeah.
What's your views?
So these approaches can be useful. What they do is, what an experience with a psychedelic drug will do is it will give you a helicopter view or a sneak preview of a higher state of consciousness. Not sustainably, though. So you may get some learnings from that higher state.
Which is a good thing, yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You may get some inspiration to, for example, look for a more sustainable route to experience a higher state of consciousness, and that may lead you to something like meditation.
Yeah.
So there can be some benefits to be achieved from it, but there's also a caveat to saying that, which is you're always playing Russian roulette with a drug. Will that drug fit or overwhelm your nervous system? It may overwhelm your nervous system, and certainly regular use of drugs is not good for the nervous system.
Yeah.
And it could be that depending on the drug you use, maybe you decide to give ayahuasca a go or acid or whatever else, and it may well be a positive experience. But there is also the chance, and it may be a slim chance, but still a chance that does overwhelm or fry your nervous system and gives you either a temporary or even a permanent mental impairment. So these are risks that run with it. So Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's my teacher's teacher, the guy who taught the Beatles, he'd say, compare drugs, he'd say, like, it's like going to the Grand Canyon. You can go to the Grand Canyon, you can jump off and see everything really quickly, it'd be very thrilling, and then boom, hit the ground. Or you can go find a nice trail, maybe have some friends join you, take a lot longer, walk down, see everything on the way, get to the bottom safely. So the jumping off would be a drug experience. Yeah. And the bit of a dramatic.
It's a good analogy.
You get the idea, and walking down to a spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So I used to really think this was a very unlikely statement, but all experiences you have on drugs are actually, you can actually find those experiences through higher states of consciousness, through something like meditation eventually. Now, most people don't have an experience of feeling like they're on LSD or ayahuasca simply through meditating, but it is possible because all the biochemistry.
Do you know of people that have had that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Have you had that?
I've had glimpses, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty unambiguous glimpses. When I say glimpse, I mean like 10 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So there are any experience that we experience from an outside drug, it only works, that outside drug, because we already produce that drug in the body.
Of course.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have a receptor site.
Yeah.
And the external version wouldn't work. So different practices and different things can increase the release of those endogenous internal chemicals. An example being LSD, lysergic acid. So somebody might take that from the outside, but it's already produced in the body. And the reason is, and there's always a reason why we produce it in the body, to help the human body to experience and appreciate higher states of consciousness. It's for enlightenment. So the body releases more and more of a chemical very, very similar to LSD as you go into higher states of consciousness. So an enlightened person, if you swapped your head with them, you probably think, what have you had?
Yeah.
You're tripping.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting.
Well, let's face it, most people take drugs to either dull the pain or supposedly increase the experience of life and happiness and things, which, you know, as you just said, it's kind of just a fast track or a cheating way of getting to something that's ultimately unsustainable.
That's right. So it's like, imagine you've got a key which just about but doesn't quite fit a lock, and you keep putting it in, and one day you might kind of break the lock and the key kind of not working so well. That's a good way of looking at at the effect of kind of more chronic, maybe more prolonged use of drugs.
Do you typically find like I came to you because stress management for my team, we care about our people, we want them to be healthy and happy, and obviously from a business perspective, we thought that if they're calmer and have more energy, then they're going to be more productive and make the business more money, which is, just a very high level macro benefit of doing it. But do you find a lot of people come to you because they've got specific things, whether it is some kind of addiction, whether it's behavioral or actually consumption of certain things, or are people typically coming just because they're not so happy with their life?
Well, not necessarily either. I've noticed a shift. So when I first started teaching, I've been teaching full time for 7 years. People would often come with something specific to address. But as time goes on, I find more and more people are coming who have absolutely nothing they want to address.
Life's good,
and they just know it could be even better. And they know meditation's good. It will make them live longer, be healthier, happier, have more joy, maybe have more, be more useful and have a bigger event horizon, meaning they can positively affect more people in a bigger kind of sphere.
Yeah.
So all these reasons people are starting to cotton onto. You don't have to wait now and be reactive. You can be proactive and start to meditate and enjoy life to its maximum potential.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think I'm certainly seeing the same with therapy, that more people are going to see a psychologist or a counselor of some description, not because things are bad, but because they realize that we're complex creatures, particularly psychologically. And if we can get help and life can become even better, then why wouldn't we do it? We have coaches for everything else. We have business coaches, we have tennis coaches, we have surf coaches and ski coaches, and it seems only natural. What about elderly people? You know, that generation of our parents' age that are perhaps a little bit more stubborn around, the only way to get through life is just to embrace the suck and get through it. Are you getting more elderly people coming to you because perhaps they're in their 70s and they're still not finding peace and they're really looking for a tool?
Yes, well, I do teach plenty of people in their 60s and 70s. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there also who wouldn't dream, 60s and 70-year-old people who wouldn't dream of learning to meditate for the exact reasons you explain. But it's like any age group of people. There are some who are naturally drawn to it and ready, and some who aren't so enthusiastic. But I've seen some really lovely kind of experiences from older people. I've also taught my dad, who's in his 70s, to meditate. Wow. And he's a poet and now a novelist, he'll like me to mention, because he's just finished his first novel.
What's his book?
His book's called Channel.
What's your dad's name?
Chris Ringrose.
Chris Ringrose. Look out for it, people.
Yeah.
Where can you buy it?
I don't know. I have to ask him. He just sent me through a few different covers to look at the artwork.
Yeah, nice. Well, keep eyes.
Yes. And he said that his experience creatively, which we haven't really spoken about, was that he's always been very creative, obviously, as an artist. But he would, he said it's a bit like putting a bucket down into the well, and when he's meditated, it's more likely to come up with something in it. That's what he said.
What's happening, creativity? What's happening in the brain or in the body that's unlocking more creativity in meditators?
Yeah, there's many different ways we could explore this, but we'll stick at the kind of level we've been looking at most things from, the physiological level today. And what's happening physiologically is that the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is generally, frankly, pretty dormant, starts to fire into life. And new neural connections are made, new neural pathways are fired and wired, and the brain starts to be more creative. And also, as we spend less time in kind of speculation about what might happen in the future and worrying about what's happened in the past and all those kind of things, and we become more present, naturally that creates space for more creative ideas to arise in.
Yeah, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about, it'd be remiss if we didn't do this, about what's the pathway to learning, and then what's the protocol, the optimal protocol for people to incorporate into their life. Because I think this is the other thing that people think, that one, it's going to be hard, two, it's going to take a long time, and probably three, it's not going to give me much benefit. So from start to finish, Matt, just walk us through what the training is and then what people do post the actual course.
Yeah, so the course, since it was, as it were, modernized in the 1960s and made appropriate for householders, people like you and me who interact with society. So this is a very, very old practice. It's like thousands of years old, at least 6,000 years old.
The oldest practice?
Yeah, but this is just a refinement of it suitable for people that don't just live in caves. That's the version we do. So everyone there's a very strict kind of criteria of how it's taught. And it goes over 4 days for just an hour and a half a day. On the first day, if you're a student on the course, you would get your mantra. And there are different mantras for different people. And a mantra just means a sound or a sound vibration. This sound doesn't have any translation, it doesn't mean anything. But when you think it in the mind effortlessly, it causes the mind to settle down.
How do you pick the mantra for people?
The mantras are simply picked by stage of life of the person. So it's often kind of shrouded in mystique and mystery. But I'm very straightforward. There are other considerations, but the main one, and the one if you're in any doubt at all, is the age of the person you're giving the mantra to. So when you think this mantra, it causes the mind to settle down, as I said, and you can have your meditation experience. And you will have that on the first day of your course. So in that first hour, you'll have your first meditation just by closing the eyes and thinking the mantra with some very, very general guidelines. Then on the second day, you'll come back. So you'll go away then after that first hour. On the second day, you'll come back and the session is an hour and a half long. And during that session, I'll teach you the technique of Vedic meditation. And if there's a few of us, we do a group meditation at the end of that together.
Yeah.
The next day after that, the third day of the course, is exactly the same in terms of format. Another hour and a half. Another hour and a half. We refine the technique. If it's a corporate environment, we'll start looking at people's roles and what their most encountered problems are.
Yeah.
And looking at ways to approach those from a kind of mindful or meditation point of view.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of that with the team, didn't we?
Yeah.
So literally they just chuck out, what's the biggest problem you get? I think one of them is people ring up, we don't have stock they want, and they get angry. So we just address that from a slightly different perspective. And then we do a group meditation, and that's day 3. So you can see so far, the first day is about an hour, second day is an hour and a half, third day is an hour and a half. And then the final day, these are all consecutive days. The fourth day, we'll meet again for 90 minutes. In that session, we'll meditate at the start, and then I will help the team to understand how to make this a regular part of their lives, how to make it a consistent practice, and not just something you do that week to keep your bosses happy, or maybe for a couple more weeks because it's a bit of a novelty, but instead to make this actually like brushing your teeth, something you just do as part of your day. You don't really think about it. It's just an enjoyable thing that you just do. Probably more enjoyable than brushing your teeth, to be fair.
Yeah.
And so that's a very important part of the course, because without that, it's like having the best membership to the best gym in the world. If you don't go, it ain't going to do nothing for you.
Which is typically what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's important. And by the end of that week, all the people on that course will be able to close their eyes wherever they are. And they may be at work, or, sitting in their car, or sitting up in bed, on a plane, train, anywhere. It could be noisy, quiet, doesn't matter. And basically think this sound and feel like they're kind of going from that place where you're in a plane and you're in the turbulence to the still air underneath, and feel that stillness and that peace. Hang out there for 20 minutes, which is how long you do it for. We'll come on to that in a minute. And then come out of that meditation, having been in that stillness, feeling a lot more able to bring more of themselves and what they're good at to the equation, rather than their stress. And that's very good for them, their families, their business, everyone, the world. So after the course, the instruction's very simple. Go and do 2 20-minute meditations each day.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That might sound to people listening to this podcast like quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't have time. What do you answer to that, Matt?
If you don't have time, if you think you don't have time to meditate, it's simply a case of priorities. If you have time to eat and sleep, you have time to meditate.
Yeah, let's talk about sleep then, because I think this is something that resonated with most of my team.
Yeah.
Is the give me the science behind the benefits, the regenerative benefits of meditation versus sleep.
So sleep's great, as we know, very important.
Super important.
But now you've got a new state of rest, which you can tap into. And it's, according to the studies, at least 6 times as effective, this meditation, as sleep.
10 minutes? Time. So basically 20 minutes is 2 hours.
20 minutes is 1.5 to 2 hours, I think it is, which is a game changer. Because if let's say you have problems sleeping, or you just didn't get enough sleep, you do your meditation in the morning and you're really right back in the zone for work. You feel refreshed, energized. You've had an extra 1.5 to 2 hours sleep. And then a really, really good use in corporate environments, work environments, is the mid-afternoon meditation, because everyone knows 3:30 p.m. productivity goes down, right? Excuse me. And the reason for that is physiologically, everyone in the world at 3:30 p.m., no matter where they are, they have a serotonin dip. Everyone has a mood dip at that time. If you're depressed, you'll feel more depressed.
Yeah.
And if you're just normal, you'll probably feel a little bit less tired and inspired, a little bit probably more tired and inspired. So if you can find somewhere, which most businesses like yours who would encourage their employees to take 20 minutes out, you'll come back and you'll have a very productive afternoon. Yeah. And I think this is what a lot of people were reporting in our course.
Yeah, and it's been fascinating because I think the first couple of days that people were doing it, they felt very self-conscious, and now we've got signs for them, and people are doing it. I think it's a badge of honor for people now, and as I said before, the benefits that we've seen have been drastic, like really drastic, with some. I wouldn't say problematic people, but some people that have really high stress jobs and were typically very reactive to most things. And as I said, that's happened in a week and a half. So I can only imagine what the benefit is over the long term insofar as productivity and the happiness of our people and the culture that's going to create. The benefit of doing it once a day versus twice a day, and you tell me it's 20 times more benefit doing it twice a day. Why do you say that? Why is it so powerful?
It's a funny one, isn't it? You wouldn't think so. The reason is, and this is again a stat specific to this technique, is because the first meditation you do will release the stress from that day. And there's always new stress coming in. So if you like, you're just skimming off the top. And that's good. It's better than nothing, and you'll feel a bit calmer if you do that. But the second meditation gets to work on the backlog of stresses which we've accumulated over our lives, over decades. And you never get to do that work if you just do one a day. You never get into the backlog. And getting into the backlog, the analogy I like to use is to imagine your body or yourself as a business, and that business having lots of old filing cabinets and old documents in those filing cabinets. But really, ideally, you should have gone paperless a long time ago. Because it's an efficient system. If somebody rings up, it takes you ages to find their document. Yeah. Because it's manual. So when you do your second meditation, it's the equivalent of processing in some of those documents into the computer system and shredding them. So each time you do your second meditation, the system is becoming more efficient. And literally when a demand comes into your system, you can respond with a quick and accurate decision, speech, action. So yeah, this is what helps us feel lots better rather than just a bit better. Yeah, is when we're actually clearing out the old stuff.
The thing that I'm going to find most interesting when we ultimately do this with our production team that are working those crazy hours, like warehouse start at midnight and it's anywhere from there till 2:30 when the rest of the team come on, and typically their breaks middle of the night are filled with cigarettes, energy drinks, and junk food. Yeah. The ability to incorporate into those breaks a group meditation and the impact that's going to have on their lives, I think, is the thing. And I don't know whether you've ever done or heard of anyone doing it with shift workers, but I think the opportunity with those people to really address some of these systemic challenges that they have, and it's hard. Like it's the hardest thing in the world. I've spent a couple of days, a couple of weeks working with them, and I've got nothing but respect, and it's something that we're painfully aware of. And I'm just wondering, Matt, whether you've either experienced that or have any views on whether you think it will be even more impactful than for the rest of us that tend to sleep and work during normal hours.
Yeah, well, everyone benefits, but you've got to say that the people who do night shifts, their bodies are under more stress.
Massively.
It's just not conducive to good recovery and healing and health. So yes, I have worked with people who do shifts, fireys, and other people, and we found that there's different approaches to it. A good one is to do your first meditation before you start your shift. Yeah. And then the next one just basically midway through it. So they're your two meditations. Yeah. And the outcome of that is you just feel better on your shift and you feel less exhausted. Yeah. So just the things you'd expect.
Yeah, and I would imagine the number of errors and things that they're skilled people and they're handling large volumes of produce every day.
Yeah.
And I think the ability to focus during those hours too it can only be helpful for them. Are you dealing with sports people, business people, mums, dads, everyone?
Yeah, everyone. Like, I've always prided myself on being approachable to all different types of people because I've actually had a very varied history myself.
Yeah, you weren't born a meditation teacher.
No, I wasn't.
Like you're a corporate guy at one point, yeah?
I've been a corporate guy. I've run and sold a pretty big business.
Yeah. What was your business?
It was there were two businesses. One was called Cellar Force and one was called Wine IQ, and they were call centers selling wine on behalf of wineries. And eventually we ended up selling them both via Cellar Masters to Woolworths.
Okay.
So that was all quite an interesting experience. But alongside that, I've also been a DJ.
Party boy?
Bit of a party boy.
Yeah.
I've been father to 2 children. Now a grandfather, as we discussed.
At the ripe old age of 40.
46.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad achievement. And you've got a 32-year-old child. So I'm just we're not going to explain that in full. People can do their own mathematics.
They can work that out.
You could have been the youngest father in England.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
You've been over there lately. Yes. So, so I think for those reasons, because I've had relative and relevant experience, I connect with more different people.
Yeah.
But there's elite sports people, all the people you'd expect, and the celebrities, all those kind of people.
Did you get drawn to it because you were partying, were working too hard, weren't happy with your life, or was it more deliberate than that? No,
it wasn't really deliberate. It's just one of those, those things where you feel choiceless, that you really want to do something and you don't quite know why. It was one of those. And I think mainly because my social habits were becoming a bit unsustainable, too much drink and so on.
Yeah.
And I just
Has that changed completely?
It did actually. So I actually never had a drink again after I learned to meditate.
You haven't had a drink again?
No.
Yeah, wow.
And that's quite a dramatic example. So
was that again a deliberate choice, or it just came about as a byproduct of the meditation?
Okay, so it had been a deliberate choice for a very long time, but just not successfully. I've been trying to
give up
all the
booze.
different means you can think of. Yeah, and then I learned to meditate, and at first it was just simply that I finally had enough willpower not to.
Yeah.
I still wanted to on some level.
Does that actually happen, that willpower increases with meditation?
Yeah, well, what's happening is that it comes back to the idea that you're finding fulfillment somewhere else.
Yeah, okay.
So the drive, the absence or the absent chemical you want to replace isn't so absent because you're replacing it for your meditation. So this can be experienced as increased willpower. I felt like that. And then as time went on, I was like not too bothered. And now it's just not even...
Doesn't even enter your realm.
No. I love the fact I don't drink, and I can't imagine drinking. But that doesn't mean that when you learn to meditate, you need to stop drinking. What happens when you learn to meditate is that what's irrelevant for you gets removed.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, isn't it?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
In my case, I'd done a lot of drinking and all sorts of other things. I'd done a lot of research, let's say.
Yeah.
And I was going to be a meditation teacher. I didn't know it at the time. So it was completely irrelevant. So it completely got removed.
Yeah.
But for most people, they'd learn to meditate and might find a little bit of moderation around drinking or
mindfulness. I think this is the other thing, what we were talking about before with weight and things, is that you become more conscious about what you're eating and how you're eating and the speed that you're eating, and are you enjoying it, or are you just drinking because you're masking pain, as opposed to, you know what, perhaps it is nice, which I agree, to have a cold beer with your mates after a long day or a day in the surf or whatever it happens to be, but why don't you enjoy it as opposed to just mindlessly drinking it? And I would imagine that's one of the benefits that comes out of meditating.
Yeah, you do get more awareness around why rather than just unconsciously performing an action, you have a bit of awareness that you're doing it. Like as the hand reaches for the donut, there might be a consideration of, do I actually need this one? So you start to find those things, and I quite agree, I'm by no means, the great thing about this meditation and the kind of the whole tradition that comes behind it is absolutely nothing is prohibited. It's a strange thing to say, isn't it?
I think that's a really something that would, I think before when we were saying you're going to stop drinking, that half people going, I'm turning this off. But I think that philosophy of it's your life and you do what you want, but this is going to help you make decisions that are right for you.
Yeah. So, if I had to do this job and tell people what to do, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Tell them how to change their lives. I don't have to do that. What will happen is, to some extent or other, is that you'll find some desires probably shift. And you might, and whatever and you end up with, they're your desires. You'll be happy with it.
Do you advise people if they've got an hour a day, and like assuming that they've taken some time off their sleep anyway, if they had the option between meditating twice or going for a 40-minute run, what would your advice be to them? Run, you can put whatever it is in there exercise-wise.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm going to cheat the answer because I'm going to say you're going to do both.
2020.
I'm going to say you're going to have a bit less. More time. You're going to have a bit less sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
You can have a bit less sleep.
Both.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Like, I don't want to be taking anyone's exercise away from them because I know how transformative that can be to your day.
Yeah.
You do your exercise in the morning, the day just is more fluid. Everything's going well. But when I meditate and then I go to the gym, it's even better. Even better. So I don't want to be taking something away that's already positive.
Yeah.
I would say, why don't you take away the 20 minutes on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah. Or many hours more for most people.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that I don't have time is the greatest throwaway line on the planet. Yeah. It's just we all do have time. It's just the priority that we give. And I say it to my team here that 15 minutes a day over the course of a year is 2 full working weeks. So you've got to be really precious around where you're spending those 15 minutes. So you apply that to meditation. You what is that? You're gonna be meditating 4 weeks a year effectively.
Yeah, it's 2%. Or 2 to 3% of every day that you're going to be meditating. Yeah. So that the other, 97% of the day is better. Because everything you do after you meditate is better. That sounds a bit of a trite line, but it literally is. If you're in a higher state of consciousness where you're not worrying about stuff and you're actually there doing it, you're going to enjoy it more.
I tell you, we've let 16 people over the course of the last 2 weeks go from the business, and as senior executive, that's a stressful period. I don't think without the meditation it would have been as easy is the wrong word because it's incredibly difficult to do. Their people's livelihood, etc. But it's certainly made the way we handled it more empathetic and the way we coped with it more palatable.
Yeah, it's very good for transitions. It's good for acceptance, and when you're in acceptance, it's the best place to start to deal skillfully with the situation. When you're in resistance, you're spending a lot of energy trying to control something which you can't control. So for all those reasons, we often work with businesses who are in either a crisis or a significant change, or there's interpersonal confrontation. These are all things that effectively get dissolved. When people start to meditate, you just get a perspective on things. Yeah.
Maybe the meditation teacher is the management consultant of the future.
That'd be nice. Or the Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister, the President. I think someone's got to teach that big red-headed dude how to meditate and make some more considered, mindful decisions.
It'll be good to have, real leaders again, rather than just someone that's working for the people.
Working for the people. Yeah. Matt, it's thank you for everything you've done for my team and our business in the short period of time. I really am a big believer in the benefits of it. I came into it thinking it would be good, but as I've said a couple of times now, I'm a true believer in it, and I really do encourage everyone, whether it's farmers or chefs in particular, because those guys are under incredible stress, and I think it's something that we need to work with you on. It's an idea I've had for a while of this whole depression and suicide issue that we face as an industry of doing something on a grand scale to fast track how we can get meditation into various restaurants and pubs and things around this great country of ours.
Great, I couldn't agree more. And there's one final thing I'd like to say, which is one of the reasons why this course works so well is because both yourself and Anthony, CEO, were present and fully engaged in the course. It makes a huge difference. If this only works if it's endorsed and led from the top down.
Yeah, good point.
It's really important, and that's why you're seeing the benefits already.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.